Hello and welcome to Painting in Your PJs with Minette. I'm Dr. Minette Riordan, and Painting in Your PJs is really about supporting you to reconnect with creativity as a tool for personal growth. And for me, art is really about the process, not the product. It's about the journey. It's about how can I use this as a mindfulness practice and a tool for self-awareness and just for being very present in the moment. And there's something about Zentangle and poetry that both help me to create this beautiful environment of mindful self-awareness in the present moment. So all month long in October, I am focusing on poems and patterns. As many of you may know, October is dedicated to Inktober in the drawing world, drawing with pen and ink. And in the Zentangle world, we have this beautiful facilitated list of prompts called Inktober Tangles. If you just do a quick internet search for Inktober Tangles 2023, you will find the list of Tangle prompts. And I so appreciate Stephanie because she finds the most amazing patterns that are almost all new to me every single year. And I'm finding that this year the patterns are really challenging and I'm having to practice a lot and draw them over and over. And I'm up for the challenge and I enjoy the challenge. And I also enjoy poetry, all poetry, but I especially love Mary Oliver poems. And so I have chosen to tangle my way through poems and patterns by tangling inside this book of Mary Oliver's anthology devotions. And I am open randomly to a page and add some Zentangle patterns. Yes, I do. Whoa, my light went all funky there. So I definitely write in my books. I underline the poems. I interact with them. I dog-ear the pages. Did you know that so many books, libraries won't take them, used bookstores won't take them, and they end up going into the garbage. They can't even be recycled. They're getting thrown away. And so I want to think about all the ways that I can really live with my books and enjoy them, all of them, enjoy every page, every word. And how can I recycle that paper in some really fun and clever ways? So that's kind of the origin of poetry and patterns. And this is the second time I did this, I think back in 2020 during the pandemic, and it was so much fun. I decided to do it again. So bear with me. I'm going to change my camera over here. And if you're new to Zentangle, welcome. Zentangle is a meditative form of drawing simple, repetitive patterns in black and white. I've been a certified Zentangle teacher since 2014 and have been tangling since way back in 2010. And it's one of those practices that kind of comes and goes for me. It's not ever present, and sometimes it's more present than others. So this was the poem from day 4 with this beautiful, lovely sort of ribbon pattern or border pattern from Jody Genovese called Sunbelt. Really enjoyed that pattern. And I'm just sort of randomly flipping through to show you. This was day 2, Flame Flower by Deb Boyer. Love, love, love this particular pattern. It was a gorgeous one. Day 1 was Be Light. I did that one a couple of different times. That is a classic Zentangle pattern from Zentangle Ink, and it's always been a favorite. And where is the one with the hearts? I love, love, love this day 3 pattern, Caro by Lucy Farron, and had fun practicing this one and loving on this poem. But today is one of my favorite patterns so far from this particular list of 31 Zentangle patterns. And it is called Nayu, Nayu, by Emiko. I don't know if I'm going to say her name right, and I apologize, Kaneko. And you can kind of see that on the screen there, Emiko Kaneko, and the name of the poem is Nayu. So this is another sort of Celtic knot inspired poem, but look at her gorgeous representation of that. So we're going to practice drawing Nayu and adding that to one of the poems here. And oh, interesting. There's a long poem in here. I like to be kind of sort of random and maybe kind of sort of intentional in my choosing. And I also look for the poems where there's some space on the page to draw as well. How about this one? 7 White Butterflies. I love the name of it. So this is from Mary Oliver's anthology, the selected poems of Mary Oliver devotions. If you're not familiar, excuse me, I'm getting over a cold, with Mary Oliver. She's one of my favorite poets, I think in large part because she writes so much about nature, but also because her poetry is so accessible. And again, if you're new to the practice of Zentangle, what I love about Zentangle is the simplicity of the supplies and the simplicity of the practice and the mindfulness of the practice. It's all about taking a breath, sort of settling in, slowing down, and drawing patterns one stroke at a time. There are no mistakes in Zentangle. There's just a simple repetition of a pattern. And all you need is a nice fine point permanent black pen. The preferred pen of mini tanglers is the Sakura Micron. It's a fabulous pen, very fine tip. A pencil and a smudge stick or a tortillon. And really, these 3 things and something to draw on are all that we need. So let's dive in with our 7 white butterflies. 7 white butterflies, delicate in a hurry, look how they bang the pages of their wings as they fly to the fields of mustard yellow and orange and plain gold. All eternity is in the moment. This is what Blake said, Whitman said, such wisdom in the agitated motions of the mind, 7 dancers floating, even as worms toward paradise. See how they banter and riot and rise to the trees, flutter, lob their white bodies into the invisible wind, weightless, lacy, willing to deliver themselves unto the universe. Now each settles down on a yellow thumb, on a brassy stem. Now all 7 are rapidly sipping from the golden towers. Who would have thought it could be so easy? 7 White Butterflies, 7 White Butterflies by Mary Oliver. And what I love about this poem is that the language and the rhythm and the movement of the lines mimics the action of the butterflies. So this one was less about capturing the visual or the emotional and about capturing the movement. I even found it a little challenging to read, and I love to read poetry out loud. I'm going to read it one more time, and then we'll get on to our tangling. 7 white butterflies, delicate in a hurry. Look how they bang the pages of their wings as they fly to the fields of mustard yellow and orange and plain gold. All eternity is in the moment. This is what Blake said, Whitman said, such wisdom in the agitated motions of the mind, 7 dancers floating, even as worms toward paradise. See how they banter and riot and rise to the trees, flutter, lob their white bodies into the invisible wind, weightless, lacy, willing to deliver themselves unto the universe. Now each settles down on a yellow thumb, on a brassy stem. Now all 7 are rapidly sipping from the golden towers. Who would have thought it could be so easy? 7 White Butterflies by Mary Oliver. All right, so we're going to add some Nayu to our page. I have Georgia sitting here in my lap. Can you see her little whiskers over here. She's decided she wants to try to come be in the video, of course. And I'm almost thinking maybe 7 of these Nayu flowers as if they are the 7 white butterflies lobbing themselves. I love that, lobbing their white bodies into the invisible wind. So let's see if we can draw 7 of these flowers. Maybe I can connect them. I don't know. We'll see. So this pattern, and I'm going to zoom in here, zoom all the way in, starts with a teardrop shape. And I'm going to be turning my book a lot in this one. One of the principles of Zentangle is to turn the page to make it easy for our hands to draw. And we don't want these to be too close together. And we want them to be more or less the same shape. It's hard to do sometimes when you're drawing in a book or when you have a cat walking around. Okay, Georgia, this is not working for me. She's like literally turning circles, half on the table, half on my lap. Let's try this one again. So this was going to be a little messy thanks to Georgia. I didn't quite get those even, but we're going to go for it. So we have our 4 teardrop shapes or petal shapes, if you will. And then the next step is we're going to extend the line of this teardrop almost over to where it's touching the other teardrop, but not quite. And then we're going to draw an aura, which is like an echo of that pattern all the way around that teardrop. And then I'm going to turn my tile, actually not quite yet, I'm not. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to go from the inside line here, the inside line, as if this line is continuing from behind to the tip there of that next teardrop. And then I'm going to go ahead and aura all the way around that. And I'm going to continue to work my way around the 4 petals, always as if we're continuing the pattern all the way around. And again, this one got a little bit too close there in the center, thanks to some tussling with Georgia. And you get this pretty little knotted floral design, which is kind of gorgeous all on itself. But then we're going to come in and we're going to draw a tiny little orb in the center because that's what I have room for since this one got a little wonky. So we're going to draw it a bunch of times. And then I'm also going to nestle a little orb right in between each of those petal shapes. I'm going to come in with a little bit thicker pen. This is a mono twin, also by Sakura. I usually use a Micron 05, but this is the one that's been floating around on my table for a little bit. So we're just going to use that one. And then I'm going to add some more petals on top of my orbs as if there's some lovely little flowers nestled between each of these spaces. Again, continuing to turn that page. Always starting with that one in the middle just makes that placement a little bit easier. And there's a rough approximation of Nayu. So let's try it again and see if we can get those shapes a little bit more even. I don't think maybe I'm not going to put all 7 on here, but I definitely want to get a few of them floating down the page. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4. A little bit more proportionally shaped. Still not perfect, but I'm good with that. So again, I'm going to continue that line, but I don't want it to touch on that other side. I'm going to come in and add that aura. I'm going to continue that line, adding that aura all the way around our teardrop shape, continuing to turn that page. Always starting from that inside line and then adding that aura just makes it a little bit easier to get those things lined up. And I'm seeing where I could still be adding more spacing between the original 4 petal shapes in order to get that bigger orb in the center. And this is how they're turning out. So I'm just being mindful of that. So again, this pattern is called Nayu by Emiko, Kaneko. I love the drama of the black centers. And then we're going to come in with our interior petals. Turning, I'm going to make sure I stay on camera there. Turning the page as needed. When I'm first learning to draw a pattern or practicing a Zentangle pattern, I will often draw it bigger because I find that it's easier to draw it bigger than to draw it smaller. So let's try that and make sure that we get a little more separation. We don't necessarily need to make those teardrop shapes bigger, but have them to be more separated so I can get that nice big orb shape a little more obvious in the center. So I think I'll add this 3rd one, and then I'll add some shading and be complete with this page, or maybe sit with this page for a little while. I'm feeling like maybe it wants some other pattern to come between, but I don't quite know what that is yet. So I might want to sit with it for a while. But as I'm drawing each of these lovely Nayu shapes, I'm definitely mindful of that imagery of the butterflies lobbing themselves in the air in order to land on a flower or a stem. So we got a bigger orb that time. We're going to get some bigger orbs in our in-between spaces as well. It just allows for a little bit different look. A little bit bigger petal. And you notice that all the shapes of this pattern are the same, right? We're just working with petal shapes, some of them pointed like a teardrop, some of them flat across the top of an orb. Adding a little extra ink in between some of those spaces to just create that little bit of contrast. So out of the 3 that I've drawn, this one's definitely my favorite, like it feels the most true to the original pattern. And I think maybe one more on the page, maybe that pattern will flow over to the next page. Like I said, I'm not sure yet, but we've gotten a start with our Nayu. So we draw the 4 petals, 1 petal at a time. We aura around each of those petals. We add that orb in the center, the 4 orbs between the dark petals, and then 3 pretty little floral petals added to those. And because I love mark making, I'm wondering if I can even just add some little flicks here to center of these petals. And what I love about the practice of Zentangle is the more you do it, the better you get, kind of like anything else. But the more I practice a pattern, the better the pattern gets, right? The more symmetrical it gets, the more even it gets, the more comfortable my hand gets with the flow of the patterns and the shapes. And for this one, I think I want to come in and shade around the edges of these petals. Doesn't need a lot of shading. I'm going to take our little tortillon, our little smudge stick, and just soften up that graphite. Again, it's not about where's the light source coming from. It's not about knowing how to draw or how to shade. It's looking at the design and thinking, where can I create a little depth, a little contrast, just a little bit more visual interest. Such a pretty, pretty pattern and a really lovely, lovely poem. So I'm going to add my chop in here, my signature. I usually also like to add the year that I was drawing. And so this is the pattern Nayu. Make sure I spell her name right. By Emiko, Kaneko. And this is, I have to remember, this is day 5 of Inktober Tangles 2023. So I always like to make a note as I'm flipping through, or I want to remember what that pattern is and go back to maybe draw that pattern a little bit more. Such a pretty pattern. And I'm almost thinking it just needs like maybe some little orbs to just sort of create a little simple flow. So there is Nayu by Emiko Kaneko for day 5 of Inktober Tangles. Thanks so much for joining me. Have a great rest of your day. And I will be live this week at 7 a.m. Mountain Time on Tuesday and Thursday, and 5 p.m. Mountain Time on Wednesday. So the next few days are going to be all about drawing live. I can't wait. It's my favorite part of the process. And excited to be playing a little catch up. I have a few days more to go to get back on track with Inktober Tangles and Mary Oliver Poems and Patterns 2023. If you like this video, please click that like button, subscribe, click the little bell so you get notified when I add new content, and come back for some more. Come join me live and practice a little mindful Zentangle drawing step by step live with me. I'll see you all soon. Thanks for joining me. This is Dr. Minette, Painting in Your PJs, live with Minette.